it's those real emotions and real experiences that means way more than, fucking having a gold record hanging on your wall and or being on a cover of a magazine. All those things, they shine your ego. They flatter you for a moment, but you don't take those to the grave. The people that you share your time with and energy, it is awesome. And I love that. I'm a very humble dude. I was never one to take my feet off the ground and believe the hype when record labels or magazines are telling you that, oh, you have a great record, you're so great. No, I'm fucking same dude I was when I was fucking 16, being upset that I lost my mom.
This is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, this is Kate Clover.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Hi, my name is Madeline Rose.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
It's Tim Howard here from Mike and the Mechanics.
Hello, I'm Amanda Lehman.
I'm Billy Harvey.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Casey Sampson from the band Twist Stop.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Mitchell.
Hey, guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
You're listening to Almost Famous Magazine.
Come join us for this interview. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Welcome back to The Hang, everyone, right here on Almost Famous Magazine. I'm your host, Scott Saldinger, and here's where we bring you musicians and artists from all over the world sharing their stories and getting a really good opportunity to get to know them. If you're new to the podcast, please subscribe, share, tell people about it. It not only helps us, but it really helps the artists who are here as well, as sometimes, you never know which show you might go to after you see someone on an episode. Plus, now you can take The Hang with you anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. I'm super excited. This has been months in the making. I had the opportunity to meet this gentleman at Punk Rock Bowling this year, and ever since then, I'm like, we've got to hang together. So today on The Hang, I'm welcoming a true pioneer of the fusion of hardcore punk and heavy metal with elements of hip-hop, Billy Graziadei, as a founding member of Biohazard. Billy's really helped redefine heavy metal by fusing. Oh, my God, more coffee, Billy. It's early. We need more coffee. Hardcore metal, hip-hop, into a sound that shook the underground and influenced generations. Beyond the stage, he's carried the same raw energy into new ventures, which we'll talk about, from his solo projects to carving out his place in the tequila world. Billy's story is about passion, resilience, staying authentic no matter where he is, and I love the authenticity. Billy, I'm so excited. Welcome to The Hang.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me, Scott. Respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is look. Here's to Brooklyn. We're gonna go way back to Brooklyn. I used to take the Q. So
there you go.
I know it, and I lived through the Crown Heights riots. So we're back in the day. I want to talk about all the new and exciting things going on with Biohazard, but I think it's really great to have an opportunity so that those who are watching us get to know you and your musical origins. Especially back in Brooklyn, which, you know what, surviving the streets and getting out is half the battle. When you were young, did you find music or did music find you? How did your relationship with music start and get you to where you are today?
So I came from a pretty big musical family. The biggest influences were my grandfather, my uncle, his son, and my mother, who was she was a nurse, but she died when I was young, but she sang with me and pushed me to play piano. And I wasn't really that difficult for her to get me to study, because I loved listening to my grandfather and my uncle. And that was at 6 years old. So she, at the early days, once I got past the basic chopsticks in the beginning of piano, she would sit with me at the piano and sing along some great songs. But she passed, and I was forever thankful that she pushed me when I didn't want to practice, and I stayed with it. Got sick eventually of the regimen of like just practice, and the confines of not realizing at the time, but I was an artist and I needed to be free. And when you're young, you don't, 10 years old, you don't realize that that's what it was. So I quit and went under the wings and guidance of my grandfather and my uncle, specifically my uncle, who helped me with finding the world of improvisation. And then I realized, this is something different. I didn't sit down and say that I have something that's inside of me I need to get out. But it was the escape and the world I went to when I sat down at the piano that made all the other shit going on in my life disappear. It's still like that. It's been like that since I was 10 or 11, whatever it was. And it's this blank face I get. You get into a world. Everyone can relate because we all have something. And if you don't have something, you just haven't found it yet. And it's a beautiful escape. Some of us fall into the pitfalls and think that it's drugs and alcohol. It's not. That's an excuse. So just finding that, and it's important, especially, when you're young and coming up and finding out who you are. We all have that, and you just have to find it. So I was lucky enough to find it. And my uncle, I won't bore you with all the details. It's beautiful details for me, but
I want to hear the details. Man, this is your story. I want to hear the details. Absolutely.
I'll sum it up quick. So I have a Patreon and I tell all these great stories. And there was one of the pieces that I wrote on the first Biohazard record called Scarred for Life. Songs about losing my mom as a young kid and how that affected me. And this piano part that I wrote as an intro of the song, my uncle Bob, who I saw him when I was a kid. I think I was around 8 when I saw him, 9 years old. My father took me. I was born in Boston, grew up in New York, but saw him play a sold out crowd, 5,000 people in Boston somewhere at some theater. And it was amazing. They were like a prog band and kind of like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes, a little bit like that. But it was awesome to see the whole experience with the show and all that stuff. But it was my uncle, and he had this costume on and a cape. I remember I couldn't see because I was so small, and everyone was standing up. So my pop let me stand. I stood in the aisle, and they let me just stand there so I could see down the aisle. I had a perfect view. But I said to myself, I want to do that one day, and that was always ringing in the back of my head. Then, time went on and I discovered punk rock, and I was like, oh, this is fucking more about the emotion, more about the feeling, more about how you're expressing yourself than it is about how well you're playing. And I think as studying classical and jazz as a kid, I didn't like the confines. I didn't like the restrictions, and I always rebelled against everything, even from like school with writing. So I figured out all these things in my life, and what it was I didn't like to be held back. And when there was a rule, out of respect, you had to follow those rules. And if you're studying how to write, those rules held me back, and I was horrible because I was more concentrated on punctuation and sentence structure and grammar, all these things that kind of clouded up my creativity. Later on in life, I had articles, I had articles in magazines. And what set me free was like with music, was letting go of those rules. And you can always go back and correct it. So I would start writing these stories, and then they were boring. They were horrible because I was worried about the punctuation and the grammar. The minute I stopped worrying about that, I was free flowing these ideas and thoughts. I would go back later and correct it, but the energy was flowing without any kind of hindrance, and that worked for me. So same thing with music. And punk rock kind of showed me and helped shine a light on the fact that it's all about how you're saying it and where your passion comes from. It's not so important how well you play it. Life isn't perfect, and the beauty is in the imperfection of everything. So trying to fix things, and you can see in today's music, people, they leave things, they can't leave good enough alone. Does it have the emotion? Yeah. There's a concept. There's a piece of artwork that I have that I came up with. It's a pedal, like it's just a regular guitar effects pedal, and it's got 2 buttons, passion and what was it? I got a passion and heart and soul. Sorry, it was heart and soul. Those aren't things. It's not an effect. It's not a plug-in. It's not a button. It's not something that you can add later. You either have it or you don't. Anyway, so that was it. My uncle, I remember, it's funny hearing it. At the time I heard about it, but experiencing it later in my life, he had the concept that I saw was, and this was back in the 70s, when you had a record deal interest and you got signed, you made it. Things changed, and now I wouldn't say now, but through the 90s in my early career, when you got a record deal, a lot of bands got record deals. That didn't necessarily mean that you were going to make it or make a living off of it. So there was a problem with the A&R getting record people, the rest of the company there, and they showed up late and all this stuff, and it caused all the strife in the band. That band eventually broke up. He continued with college, went to BU, became a doctor and a surgeon, and always followed my career and would show up to see us and ask me all these questions. And he said, every time he said the same thing, he would say, in a heartbeat, I would trade my life for you in a second. And me being on the other side of that fence, struggling at, making $250 a week, knowing that you could rely on it, but it was $250 a week, to pay my bills, but making music, I was like, yeah, you sure? Anyways, things changed and grew, but him and I are still close, and I owe a lot to him and my grandfather.
No, it sounds like they made it.
Long-winded, you asked, dude. Sorry.
No, look, hey, we're just hanging out, having a chat. And you remind me of something that I had a mentor who, a business mentor who passed away during COVID, not from COVID, but from an embolism. And he always would say, perfection is the enemy of good, and good is good enough. Yep. And I try to keep that with me all the time, because whether it's in my photography or in, perfection has kept me from being a great musician, because I get obsessed, right? And sometimes it's hard to let go of things. But when you think about just doing it good enough so that you enjoy it, so that others can enjoy it, what more do you need? Right. Yeah. But there are people who are so obsessed with, if it's not note for note right, or they're coloring inside the lines, they think it's their perfection. But in my experience, most times those are things I can never connect to, because they're missing that heart and that passion. And I agree with you about today's music. It's a little more mechanical than I'd like it to be for a lot of bags.
You just reminded me of something. It ties into the new Biohazard record. When Biohazard split up, and we had different eras of the band where we were together and separated, different members would leave and come back. I'm the only original member that never left, never faltered, but the band is back together. But during those peaks and valleys, I went on to different bands. Blood for Blood, a solo band called Billy Bio. I have a band called Power Flow with Send-Off from Cypress Hill, Christian from Fear Factory. So I kept doing different stuff, and each time I set a bar for myself as a creative, I always tried to up it. I tried to take myself further, push myself harder. And as an artist, I felt that achievement and that reward of I constantly taught myself personally. I'm not talking about the accolades of success and sales and all that shit. That was never a motivation for me. But as an artist, I always felt like I kept upping the bar. So I grew as a writer, as a singer, as a guitar player, as a songwriter, as a member of a band, and this and that. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I was on the phone with my manager, Scott Koenig, great dude, unfortunately passed away. But on a Thursday night, I was in the studio. We had it was a long conversation. He spent most of the time talking about me and my career and what I was doing, and he helped guide me even separately from Biohazard. He gave me a lot of great advice and was always a good friend, looked out for me. But that was his personality. He looked out more for other people than he did himself. He had COVID, had some other health complications. It unfortunately, turned out I was the last friend to talk to him. Next morning, Friday morning, I get a phone call from a buddy of mine, Dominic, telling me that he didn't make. He woke up previously the night before. He had said he was getting checked out on Friday. He was doing great. So we planned on having dinner later that night if he was up to it. He didn't make it. But the last thing he said to me was, listen, he was telling me that the nurses who was coming in, that, hey, I'm going to get my sponge bath. But do yourself a favor. Put the band back together. Bury your shit with the guys, mostly Evan. He goes, look past that. He goes, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your fans. You guys created something beautiful, unique, and special. Don't let that die. And I was moved on, Scott. I was like, I'm fucking done. So he, when he passed, those words rung in my ears for a long time. About a year or so later, a couple months later, I bumped into Evan at a memorial for him at the Rainbow. We just exchanged pleasantries, and then eventually the band got back together. So to my point of this whole thing was when we worked with our producer, Matt Hyde, he sat me down and he said, listen, I love what you do. I love your solo shit. I love the band with Sendog. He did the first early demos of Cypress Hill. But so he kind of just pushed me in a direction. He said, listen, I don't need you to be Billy fucking Biohazard in 2023. I need you to be, and it was just while we were writing and getting ready for, to collect these songs for the record. And he said, I need you to be fucking Billy Biohazard in 1993. I'm like, bro, I fucking grew so much as an artist. He goes, yeah, I get it. And that's great. But throw all that shit out. Forget what you learned. That was your heyday. That was what you guys created, the best stuff. Just do that. It's easy. You created it. Just rip yourselves off. And I'm like, I kind of looked at things a little different. So I went in, bro, I learned all these techniques vocally, how to sing and preserve my voice. I would go in cold. I ruined my fucking voice. But we got down to the nuts and bolts of what Biohazard is and what everyone, including ourselves, loved the most about the band. So it ties in. You said that the perfection is the ruiner, of something good. Yeah, and it was. I'm proud of everything I've done since then, but it took a little bit away from the true essence of what I and a lot of people love about Biohazard. The new record, Divided We Fall, has got all that, and it's just from, I wouldn't say it's from lack of focus, it's from shutting out the noise over all these years and just going back to what we do normally.
I'm getting goosebumps because when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about, I really wanted to kind of ask you about, like, when you're in a band that long and look, every relationship has its ups and downs. People tend to fight over silly things that when you look back in the rearview mirror are inconsequential. But how you overcome those as, being the person you are now as opposed to the person you were then, so that you can bring the best back together of what worked, right? Because I think that the difference between great artists and good artists are the ones that realize the benefit of being together that way and what they can do, as opposed to the ones that stand their ground and go, I'm better than the rest. We're not together, yet they can never find that thing again, going back to that Billy Biohazard in 1993, right? You that story of why you got back together and how that happened, and I'm sorry that you lost someone, but that is so amazing, because that shows a maturity and a growth to be able to accomplish something that's who you are now, but to recapture then. And I'm really just like vibrating over that right now. I think that's tremendous, and I'm glad you're able to do that.
Thank you for tapping in on that. I love that. I'm a guy, a person who loves hearing great things about friends, and when I hear people share news, like when you talk about your mentor, that resonated with me. I'm like, oh, that's fucking great. I love hearing these things, and I really not into spending any energy when people have negative things to say. Like my mom said, in all of our folks, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. But over the years, we grew a lot. I grew a lot as a person, but to have the ability to kind of, I wouldn't say relive, but re-experience some great moments with people who I grew up with and loved in a different way now, because the things that, like you mentioned before, it's things that matters to you when you're in your late teens, early 20s. They don't matter 10 years, 20 years down the road. So I think that was the key. I thought it lasts for 3 shows. Then it was 3 weeks. And now it's been 3 years. Scott, if you would have told me, Billy, you're going to be sitting here one day talking to me in 3 years about a new record that you guys tapped into the heart and soul of the band, and you're really going to be proud of it. I'm like, we're not gonna make it through this tour. And not to be a pessimist, but that was the course of things. We tried to do it a couple times here and there. It just never worked. And so I had moved on. It took me a year of these guys trying to talk me into getting back together to finally agree to jamming and having dinner. So it worked, and I'm proud. I don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And rest in peace to Scott. But it's been a great ride, and I'm going to keep driving until it no longer is fun.
And look, I mean, you and I are at the stage of life when you start to say, okay, what's our legacy going to be? And for Scott, if his legacy is getting you guys back together, what greater gift did he give to the world? Right? I mean, that is just tremendous, and he'll always be remembered for that. So I'm getting verklempt, buddy. You're this is really touching. And you know, your story kind of reminds me a little bit. I don't know, you know, what you listen to outside of you know, what you create. We'll talk a little about that later. But it kind of reminds me of the story of Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook's Squeeze. You know, they broke up, and now they're back together better than ever. Right? They had about a 12-year, 15 maybe separation. They grew, they matured, they got their lives together, and that band sounds better than ever. They're about to release, I think, early in the year, an album of music that they wrote when they first had their first writing session 50 years ago. And to be able to do that and be that way, I think speaks so much of artists who can come to grips with the fact that life is. It's experience, forgiveness, love, and passion. And when you can do that with someone, you just should, for all the right reasons. So it really reminds me of that. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm going to look into them. I like Squeeze. I'm going to look into them more. That's a great story, especially when you see parallels. We see a lot of bands get back together, and you know it's a midlife, little past 50%. Where you're like, oh, yeah, I got to pay off the mortgage. I got to close the house, and then I'm set. And it's a money grab. They go through the motions. But, bro, we're on stage. We're about to jump on tour in October 1st through the States with Onyx, Bayway. Sounds like an advertisement. But regardless, the energy that we have on stage, we have more energy at our age now than most bands in their 20s. And it's people like, what is that? Like, I don't know. I think we found the fucking fountain of youth because – for the hour and a half that we're on stage, it's just unbelievable. And it's full of high five moments. And I often think of Scott every night. I high five Evan. I high five Bobby. Fist bump Danny. It's such good energy. And I'm like, fuck, I wish Scott was able to see this. So, you know, I trust that he's looking down on us, you know, fist bumping and you know.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
doing the sounds from above.
Again, you know, he should be memorialized for that. I mean, I'm a big believer. We can't boil the ocean in our lives, but if we do a few really good things, we can be remembered for them. And he definitely gets credit for that. I'm kind of curious. Growing up in Brooklyn, and you know, I make you a bet. We could have crossed paths without even knowing it. That was a time when you had, punk, hardcore, hip hop. It was fermenting, right? And it was all starting to bubble up. How did you decide, okay, I want to take these different genres, bring them together to create something new and different? Was it instinctual? Was it by accident? How did that come about for you to really kind of create a different stew of music, so to say?
For me personally, and I think it's similar with the other guys, the first band I fell in love with was Kiss. There was like Led Zeppelin, my father's, the Stones, and Neil Young, yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all these bands in my father's record collection, Beatles. My mother loved Elvis. So there's all these early influences, but the first band that I felt was mine was Kiss. And then, because it was like that, the mystery, the theatrics, and then it was punk rock that kind of was so opposite and so anti that. So those two things kind of were like early influences in my life. and everything in between. I was more into punk rock and hardcore and hanging out CBGBs than anything else. There was a band I played in, one of my first bands. The bass player taught me these riffs that I thought were amazing, and we tried to do a medley of these riffs, and they were Black Sabbath riffs. And at the time, I'm like, who? The band's called Black Sabbath. I'm like, oh, cool riffs. I liked them, but I didn't know much about the band. So that was my extent of like metal. And then I slowly started learning about other bands, and guys in Biohazard definitely turned me on to more metal, especially Evan. So I grew as an artist that way. There was never an intentional or a focused sit down meeting where we set out a plan of let's combine this and this. It was all purely, I wouldn't say by accident. Biohazard was never a band, and we've never been a band where we sit down and follow a marketing plan. And I remember when we were working on this record, we teamed up with this great label called Black to Black, based in Italy, and it was a lot of talk. Well, can we see the marketing plan? We don't follow it anyway. That's not our MO. So there's a lot of similarities, but with Biohazard, it just happened. In Brooklyn, it was, there was Beastie Boys and Run DMC in one corner. There was Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath on another. There was Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags and everybody else on another corner. And then there was disco. And nobody fucked with that corner, but everybody else, you would walk back and forth sharing beers, sharing joints and whatever, and hanging out. You partied and socialized and mixed. Not with the fucking discos. That corner kind of stayed on its side, and that was never my thing. But jokes aside, it was kind of natural for us, and it wasn't. Later on in life, we grew up and we grew older, and I saw as an artist that people, because people like credited, even though like a lot of early hip hop was a big influence, and I still listen to it and still love it. Even the modern stuff, people are like, do you like this modern shit? Yeah, some stuff I do. If it resonates and hits and vibrates me inside, well, then it's good. I like it. But it was our delivery, our subject matter, the things we were singing about, the struggles that were very similar to the hip hop world, and what that genre kind of, how they delivered their music and their messages. So many similarities, the rhythms, the cadences, the way we bounce, everything. But we also had a hip hop and metal influence that mix in there. So some people see the hip hop influence more than they see the punk influence. But a buddy of mine last night said, dude, you guys keep dropping bangers and bangers. I didn't realize how much punk influence there is in the band. I'm like, yeah, sometimes it's more punk, sometimes it's more metal, but we don't filter it. We just let it bleed naturally. And we don't try to stop the bleeding. It is part of us. That's it.
No, that's nice. That's nice. I've been listening to some of the singles you've dropped so far, and what I'm blown away by is it radiates. Like the music is radiating. It's got this visceral feeling, and what you're singing about is so on point, and it feels like it could have been written 25 years ago. Going back to what you were talking about. So I'm really enjoying it. It drops, Divided We Fall drops what, October 17th, right? Is it October 17th? And you've got everybody, you've got Evan, Bobby, and Danny. This amazing tour. I can't wait till you hit Dallas. I can't wait till you're here.
That's Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. And it's, my next question was gonna be about, what brought about the new album, but we've already covered it. You should have titled it Scott's album. But
no pun intended, because there's two Scotts that I know that I consider friends. Yeah.
But you've got 11 songs, and you've released 4 of them so far. I'm curious. Take away the answer doesn't have to be the singles, right? Because sometimes you do singles because you're like, what would other people think? What are your 2 or 3 favorites that you're most proud of off this album? Are there 2 or 3 songs that you're like, as soon as it's released, man, you gotta hear this, that you really love?
No.
Wow.
Making a self-expression for me, and I can only speak on behalf, but I think this is the way we kind of gel together. It's the same with the other guys. I have an emotion, an idea. It comes from inside, and I express that. I've gotten more fluent and more focused on being able to better express myself over the years. And that's it. That's all I work on. That's all I try to do is just focus and shine that idea so it's exactly the representation of what's inside my heart. Then I move on, and there's another inspiration, and I do it again. And there comes a point where all those self-expressions that are songs or poems or whatever how you want to describe them, they magnetize together. You jump off the paper and say, yo, I'm fucking called, divided we fall, motherfucker, do you see me? And until that happens, I get goosebumps. Until that happens, you're just like a creative. You're making something out of nothing. And it comes from a small inspiration, wherever that may be or however that may hit you. And it becomes something long lasting. And hopefully it's always powerful and impactful for me as an artist and as a creative, because I expel that idea. And to me, it's great. It's like therapy. When I was a kid, I thought that I was the only person going through the things that I went through. The minute you talk to your friend, you realize they're going through something similar. For me, it was writing and expressing myself through music, because I didn't express myself well to other people. I kept a lot of things in, and all of us are like that. Sharing our ideas, thoughts, experiences through the music, through our lyrics, and having other people come up and say, hey, thank you for that song. I went through something similar, and it helped me through a dark, difficult time. Or it related to something else in their life. That was just like, wow. It was the same thing of sharing something as a kid. I wish I would have learned early on in age that to talk more, and you'll heal quicker. So I didn't. It wasn't until I was about to have my daughter, and somebody suggested, hey, you got a crazy life. Maybe you should sit down and talk to somebody. And I did, and it was the best thing. So I've gone through 3 phases of my life where I found somebody that I got along with, and I'm on a communication level, and they helped me sort things out. And all all it's been is just somebody that is not going to judge you. They help not guide, but they help you bounce ideas off and thoughts, and you figure your own shit out by them just listening. That's it. No strings attached. I've seen, one of my friends here, I see in the neighborhood all the time, and I never feel like, oh, she knows my dark secrets. There's no dark secrets. They were dark, and she helped shed lights on them and helped me heal past those things. I'm getting a little too far away from Biohazard, but the energy that we share with our music is a direct reflection of what's inside of us. And so it was never, you can't control that. If you're honest and authentic, it's got to be that's redundant. It just comes out. So we never sat down and said, let's be like this. And whereas I think a lot of bands kind of did that, especially after us, and it doesn't matter to say their names, but they did it way better, and they mixed hip hop and metal and fucking became huge. And they're not trying to pay off their house anymore. They're done. Anyways, regardless, that metal that I get to wear in that pine box 6 feet under is something that's going to be shiny, and I'm proud of it. My daughter just interviewed me for her thesis at school, and she asked me all these questions. And the biggest takeaway was, I'm like, when I was a kid, my mother was a nurse, and she helped people heal. My father was a doctor and a professor and helped people grow. And I always felt like I wasn't leaving my mark in the world. But as I was writing and doing that, I was slowly sharing my thoughts that seemed to vibrate with a lot of people on a similar level. And now I look back and I'm like, yeah, you know what? For all the fucked up things I did as a kid growing up with drugs and carrying on this anger on my shoulders and doing a lot of fucked up things, I did by far 100-fold better in the world. So I'm leaving, knowing one day when I'm gone, not only will I have that pride, but I also have 2 kids that I'm raising to help make the world a better place than they left it, like I'm trying to do for myself.
Yeah,
So that's a real proud thing.
I think it's great. And look, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I've got that same kind of person in my life, and I'm a big advocate for it. I think that when you realize you need to have someone like that in your life, so that you're not getting, you're just your friends giving you what you want to hear. I think it can be the best thing possible, so that you can go in the direction you want to go in, on your own terms. Absolutely. So is it safe to say then, and I'm thinking to the story about, Scott getting the band kind of back together. Is this an album about healing in a way for all members?
I wouldn't attribute that to Scott, but he's definitely involved, and he was there at the beginning. But that's the theme a lot of Biohazard, in all of our records. It's, we've been through a lot. Life is constantly handing us fucking shitty decks of cards, shitty hands of cards, and it's how you play it and how do you rise above. I've learned early on in Eyes on Six is about that. How I knew I was going to be plagued with naysayers and people against me and people that weren't going to be in my corner. And sometimes that is your juice and fuel to push forward. I learned that there are no problems, there are only solutions. And that has propelled me further along in life, not being pessimistic and saying, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I have a lot of people, and I try to surround myself with people who have that same mindset. And sometimes you have to be involved with people that don't have that, and you can't teach them that. And that's a challenge. And especially when it's close friends. But I tend to, I like to get rid of cancers and move on. Life's too short. I try to rise to the challenge of issues that I know that there's a solution for. And that helps me, here's a funny story. And dude, tell me if I'm talking too much and moving on with your time, but
No, we're just hanging out. Come on, give it to me.
I just did the tour. I did the guided tour of the Punk Rock Museum, and they told me, my buddy Morat told me, hey, we really want you to do this. Are you down? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, we'll take care of you. We'll put you up and you just come and you talk. It's like, takes like an hour to run through the tour. I said, sure. I call my wife. I'm like, hey, let's go. We're going to have a weekend in Vegas. They'll take care of everything. It'll be fun. I got 2 tours a day. They're about an hour long. So we'll have another 22 hours to just fuck around and hang out and have a good time. So you stay in the punk rock house. There's a pool. Everything was great. I get there. It's 120 degrees. And we couldn't even go outside to enjoy the pool. The house was great. The accommodation was great. Everything was awesome. And then I go to the museum for the first in the morning. First tour is 12:30. Second tour is 4:30. And I'm like, I walk through the museum, which I've seen before, take some notes, and I start realizing that I have stories and memories from all these different bands and my upbringing and my growth as a young punk rock kid into who I am now. That tour, it's not an hour long. It's an hour if you just want to rush through it. You have no experiences or anything to say. Bro, by the end, I kept remembering these things and these stories. And I would ask the group, like, hey, I just remembered this. I haven't told this yet, but do you want a story about that band or that person? Yeah. It got to be like 3 hours. The record was 44 hours held by from Off and Circle Jerks, Keith Morris, Black Flag. And I hit 3 hours and 45 minutes my last tour. So they kept getting longer and longer. Bro, when you do 2 tours a day at 3.5 on average, it was like, this is like 7 hours. And plus, getting there before, my wife, super cool and super happy to be there. She just hung out with friends, but that weekend I thought was going to be fun with her. It was not. It was, but I had one moment to be with it, and I spent all the time in the museum. But my point, I don't even know what my point was. What brought that up? That story.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So we've had Rob Ruckus on a couple of times. Love
great,
Rob.
Yeah. Punk rock saves lives.
Oh no, wait. Rob Ruckus from the museum, but Rob Rushing as well. Yeah, we've had Punk Rock Saves Lives.
Sorry,
both of them. I've gone both ends of the spectrum. Because I've known Rob Rushing, and that's how you and I met since the Love Hope Strength days. because we used
Yep.
to do stuff for Mike Peters. But Ruckus, I've been to the museum a couple of times, and yes, you can walk through in an hour. But if you're going to Las Vegas and if you love music, forget punk, just if you love music, you are out of your mind if you don't go to that museum, because it's so rich in history, and having the ability to have the people who lived through it give those tours and tell those stories. And you know what? It may have, your 1 hour may have gone 3.5, but those people and what you gave to them, holy cow. Right? I mean, that opportunity to have that experience is a blessing, no matter how you look at it.
Bro, that 3.5 hours felt like an hour, and I had so much fun. That's why I kept sharing stories. Respectfully, some people, they're like, do you have time? I threw a party there. One of the nights we did a Biohazard listening party sponsored by Ghost Tequila, and that was awesome. So we had a really good time. What was your question that made me tell this story? What was the first question? I love these conversations, how you just talk and it just takes off in different directions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd hit a little bit about the album and about healing. Healing.
Is
it really is the album about healing? I think one of the directions you're spinning my mind in is the Biohazard's relevance. You guys started back in the late 80s, and you've always been very honest and sincere in your lyrics, very poignant for the times. I'm kind of curious, because you guys are about to hit the road, right? You got about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minute set.
Yeah.
Are you looking into your back catalog and saying, you know what? We have some older songs that may actually be more relevant now than they were when we even wrote them, and we're going to throw them in the set? Because I think in the day and age we live in, looking back to having lived through the 80s and the 90s, what you said then, look at what may have come true now and where those songs are now. Have you guys kind of thought about that at all and looked at that relevance?
Yeah, I think some of the earlier stuff is more relevant now than it was then, especially like when you live long enough to see the different cycles of life and how things change politically. Divided We Fall is obviously the current situation that we're in as a world and a nation. But also, like with Biohazard, we are stronger together. It's a little call on that. So there's so many dual meanings. The line is from a song called "Fuck the System," and I brought it up. I'm like, hey, let's call this song "Divided We Fall." It's so poignant to what's going on, and we ended up using that as a title. And we said, let's keep it "Fuck the System" because it's Biohazard's blatant. We don't pull any punches. Let's leave it obvious and bonehead, because it's easiest language to communicate in. But the record it's almost like you could take it out and put it between Urban Discipline and State of World Address. We were talking about like perfections and imperfections earlier, and it was all about energy. You can't add an effect, you can't add emotion, you can't add heart and soul, and I mentioned that earlier, but you can't fix that. It's there or not. Mistakes you can fix and change, but this record, there's a video I made. We were in my studio working on a couple new songs here in LA, and we packed ourselves in this small. It's a vocal booth, bro. It's like 8 by 8. I put the drums in the corner, the bass rig, 2 guitar amps, and we're like this. We couldn't turn. And there's a picture I posted on social media, but there's a video I made to send to Matt Hyde, who we were just talking to. And I'm like, bro, we don't need to fucking up this game and step it up and be like overproduced. This is the energy. Look at this video. And Evan's son filmed it. It was us playing this song. But the energy of me, when I realized that, the way everything just captures and compresses in that room, a loud fucking room, some of our best music was made that way. So we took that same approach. Matt helped us bring the best out of each one of us. And then with the guidance that he gave me, especially, don't be fucking Billy Biohazard 2023, 2024. I need to be that dude in 1993, 92. And it was like, yeah, that's part of me. I've grown, but that's there. So all these things just keep saying to come in and just sync up at the right time, for the right reason. And it wasn't a business thing. It wasn't like we got back together, just have one great show. And then it was 2 shows, 3 shows. And then the high fives. When you see a band on stage, and I say this all the time, if you don't see sweat, ask for a refund. So that band, you have to give it your all. But you can tell when a band's on stage enjoying it and they're there because they're happy to be there. The problem is when you have 120 songs that you've written over your career and you have a new record that you fucking can't wait to play all these songs of. Now it's 132 songs or 100 whatever. It's just like the conversations backstage, even the text. Bobby just called me while I'm talking to you. It's a lot of it is like, I want to play this song. I want to play this song, but we haven't. The original OG lineup of Biohazard hasn't played in America and toured the U.S. We played New York and L.A. show and, like somewhat Boston maybe, but we haven't toured the U.S. in over 20 years. That's fucking insane. Like it's now people are at the point where it's like, I saw them and now I got a kid, and you're going to bring your 12-year-old to the show.
Dude, I'm just going to tell everyone watching, we did not discuss where we were going with this conversation before we hit start. And you just landed exactly where I was going to go next on this entire discussion. This is crazy. So, you haven't toured the States in 20 years. I was surfing around on Reddit. I got a couple of quotes off of Reddit. And then I want to ask you, I've got a question for you. So I found this, this is a quote. I saw them at the 930 Club in DC with Clutch opening around 2002. The crowd was pretty chill for Clutch. When Biohazard came out, the place fucking exploded. It was wild, a little scary for a 120-pound, 18-year-old kid from West Virginia. Just saw them again last year. They were great. Got to meet Billy. Real nice dude. Small, humble brag. I got to open for them in Boston. I had never heard of them at the time. They just had put out their first album. It had the it factor. And then this one just blew my mind. Has anyone ever seen Jerry Seinfeld in the pit? So my question for you is this. What are you most looking forward to for this tour to go across America and bring everybody this album after a 20-year hiatus?
We just got off tour in Europe in April, May. We had finished the record. I sang I went in, I had to fix something with my single, one more part of a song that Matt asked me to re-sing. It was like 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I went to the airport at 4 that afternoon, jumped on a plane and went to Europe and went on tour for like a month and a half. It was an awesome tour. And then we were so excited. And we did that once before on State of World Address. We left the studio, finished it, literally jumped on a plane, jumped on tour with Fishbone to continue a tour, did a 2-month tour with Fishbone in the States. And then the record came out like a month later. It's so many similarities. On that tour, we were excited about we started talking about the record and the songs. We're like, wow, what did we create? What did we just do? It was happening so fast. So we like, let's play a new song. Yeah, let's play Forsaken. So we threw Forsaken in the set. And it used to be, as it is for me when I go see one of my favorite bands, when they say they're going to play a new song, they're like, I'm like, okay, cool. What's it like? Does it have all the elements that I love about this band? What's the chorus? What's the grabbing me? What's the hook? I try to just zone into what it's about. So you kind of stop, and that energy, it kind of dissipates a little bit and levels out. And then they go into another old song, and then the energy picks back up. That never happened on the tour. We went to that song, and it was like people were like, it was wild and crazy. So I ended up making a live video of that song from that energy because we didn't miss a beat. It was like they knew the song, but they didn't know the lyrics. Like, what? It's like Shades of Grey. It's like one of my favorite songs, but it's not. Forsaken. Wow, Forsaken. And I captured that on video. It was awesome. We filmed the last 2 nights of the tour in Amsterdam and Belgium or Germany somewhere. Came home and I edited the video, put it together. It came out great. But that's what I'm looking for, is just more of those things. So we talk all the time, and we can't, with our energy, we can't play that long because every song it's It's the energy level, like our creativity, is not a faucet. You can't turn it on or off. Once you press go, it goes until it's gone. So we go, and then there's a certain moment where if that's the energy level is dragging, that's where we cut the set. It's going to be tough to, and I'm looking forward to that challenge of picking songs that people haven't heard in a long time, picking songs that resonate loudly now, and mixing in some of these great jams off of Divided We Fall. But we'll figure it out. We always do, and it'll be great, as you'll see in Dallas.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, we mentioned legacy a little earlier, and I'm kind of curious personally from your perspective, because as I was going out on Reddit and reading all these amazing things that people say about the band and their experiences, how do you feel about the impact you've made on so many people over the years? What does that mean to you?
It's really awesome. It's amazing, dude. It fucking warms my soul. It's those real emotions and real experiences that means way more than, fucking having a gold record hanging on your wall and or being on a cover of a magazine. All those things, they shine your ego. They flatter you for a moment, but you don't take those to the grave. The people that you share your time with and energy, it is awesome. And I love that. I'm a very humble dude. I was never one to take my feet off the ground and believe the hype when record labels or magazines are telling you that, oh, you have a great record, you're so great. No, fucking same dude I was when I was fucking 16, being upset that I lost my mom. Those things are real, and what I think people loved the most about Biohazard was the authenticity and the realism, because we always said back in the day, some band that took us on tour, and I gotta shout them out. This band called Mucky Punk. They believed in us before anybody else. Took us on tour in Europe and gave us our chance. I didn't think we had a record. They tried to take us before we had a record deal, and it didn't work out. And the minute we got a record deal, they took us out and they gave us a chance. But Chris asked, he said, "Hey, so like, would you guys just sat down and said, hey, let's all go get tattooed before we take these photos?" Like it was an image thing. We're like, no. And he's like, oh, but it looks great. You guys have an image. I'm like, no, our image is no image. We're just regular dude. The same clothes I wear on stage. I wear this shirt on stage. We're just regular people. We do it. And there is a place for bands like Slipknot and Kiss and all these other awesome bands. We're taking this band called Swollen Teeth on tour. They're fucking awesome. They're great. Don't miss them. Come early. But Biohazard is a different thing. I always say we're like the working class rock and roll band. We're just regular dudes who get off. I have a job. We all have jobs, and we do what we do, enable us to do what we love to do. And going on tour with Biohazard is not because I have to pay my bills. It's because I love doing it, and I want to do it. And the minute that changes, I'm out. I'm done. But it hasn't changed since 1988. So.
Hey, well, look, I mean, you got the album coming out, you've got the tour. I'm curious, what does 2026 have to offer? And any chance I could see you again at Punk Rock Bowling, except this time on stage?
That has been, bro, for 10 years, maybe 15 years. Once that it jumped on my radar, because I know the Stern Brothers, and I was a fan of Brigade. They changed the name to The Brigade at one point in my youth, but and watch that grow. So I would love to do it. I tried to get on it last year. We had a tour. Make a long story short, yes, I hope so. That would be. I don't talk about future plans because I'm in belief of I tell people what I did, not what I'm going to do. But since you asked, that's a goal of mine, and like it was to play CBGBs, it's to play Punk Rock Bowling.
Well, everybody watching, okay, get on social media and let Punk Rock Bowling know that you'd love to see Biohazard next year. Let's see if we can make that happen for Billy. Let's see.
Thank you. I never thought about empowering my friends to do that. That's cool.
Look, good old fashioned write-in campaign, right? You know, use your voice to be heard, right? You know, let's get a little spicy in this conversation. I got this shirt. I never really changed shirts during my podcast, but I got this. And
it's not backwards. We both figured that out. That's great. You knew it before me.
I got this shirt. Wear it around. You know, how did you get involved in the tequila business? What is that? And tell us about Ghost.
So, Ghost Tequila is a spicy tequila. We sponsored Punk Rock Bowling, which is how we met this year. And it gave me a chance I was hoping to be on stage with Biohazard and there with my tequila, but it's a perfectly spicy tequila. It's a premium. I'm not going to make an advertisement about it, but it's premium tequila, 100% pure blue agave. It's spicy. You could we did spicy palomas and spicy margaritas there. And it was great. And some of the sideshows, we did some great stuff from Fremont, even the pool parties, which were hilarious and amazing. So I gave away a lot of spicy margaritas, shots, and Mexican candy shots are killer. But that aside, how did I get involved? I was on tour with Power Flow and Billy Bio right up until COVID. I came home and I own a recording studio called Firewater Studios, and I had a bunch of bands slated to produce. But I shut the studio down after I came home from tour. It was in 2020 in February. And I think I came home after Kobe passed away, and it was Super Bowl Sunday. It was around that era. And I closed the studio down. Then COVID happened, and shut everything down. And LA was just locked down. You couldn't go out. I did. I kept going back and forth to the studio once the family was set. But I came home one day, and my wife must have read the expression on my face, and she said, what's up? I'm like, the whole fucking world is shut down. What do you mean, what's up? She goes, yeah, but we're all in this together, blah, blah, blah. I had like 8 years sobriety, and she said, and I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I got a new record. The Biohazard wasn't doing anything. So I had a new solo record. I was working on a new Power Flow record. I said, I don't know when I can't put that out. The whole entertainment industry's done. The music world's shut down. And with that, all these bookings, all these bands, they can't come in the studio to record because the powers that be aren't letting people, do anything. So that aside, she said, you should find an alcohol company. And she's done it a couple times before, and find it somebody to invest in. And I'm like, first of all, I don't drink. And second of all, I don't do that. And she said, through me, you've learned through osmosis. You've been selling yourself your whole life. You find something you like and it works. And I'm like, but I don't drink. She goes, you don't have to drink, and you just don't drink. I'm like, how am I going to tell something, anyway. So time went on. I ended up linking up with Ghost Tequila from Boston. I was born there. We had a lot of mutual friends, and just linked up with them, and jumped on board. And it's been great since. I never looked back. And before that, let me prelude this. So every day for like a week straight, my wife's like, have a beer with me. Like, I don't drink, And she's like, what about you? You're going to be a slippery sloping and do coke off of some girl's tits backstage? Let it be mine. I'm like, no, I'm not worried about that. It's not an issue. But so eventually that's how I have a beer. Now I have a tequila company that's doing really well, and I love it. Not an issue. And it's great. But I used to say to my wife, I'm like, listen, I come home. When I'm home, I'm home. I don't go to strip joints. I'm not hanging out in the bars. I don't go to strip joints, but I do hang out in a lot of bars now. So that's the funny story behind Ghost Tequila.
Well, I think you have a very wise wife, because you know what? You miss every shot you don't take. And had you not, where would it be? Because let me tell you something. First of all, seeing you out talking about Ghost in Las Vegas, okay, you're one of the happiest campers I've seen in a long time. You were just your enthusiasm is infectious about it. I I do have a question though from a young law student though that you met in Las Vegas, and he's doing what all law students do to get by. He's waiting tables, and he's dying to know, because I looked it up, and there's not a lot of distribution in the Houston area. How in the world can Pablo's Mexican Kitchen in Richmond get Ghost so he can turn all his tables onto it? How can we make that happen?
So we're doing. I was just talking to the guy who runs Texas. His name is Jacob, but we're doing something and we're playing at Ferris Bueller's in Dallas, and then San Antonio. I'm not sure of that club. So if you have a connection, DM me and I will make it happen. I will call whoever I need to call. There's a distribution company in Texas called RNDC. They carry my tequila and they will bring it there. And if you own a place, whatever, and what I do on tour, I'm doing this in Arizona too, in LA. We throw parties, like people that have, that are interested in doing something. I bring the band. We do like after show Biohazard party, pre-show party in LA. I'm doing at a spicy New Orleans restaurant that's fucking killer. And then after show, we're doing Monty Bar. But I'm doing something there in Arizona. I'm doing a bottle signing at a liquor store, like I did in Vegas. I did Atomic, a bottle signing, and then we did all the after show parties. So just ask. I'm there. I don't have an intern that answers my emails or my DMs or my messages. It's me. And it's an authentic thank you when I shake your hand for following me, because if it wasn't for people if nobody liked what I did, then I guess now I would only be doing Ghost Tequila. But it's great to be able to make music and enjoy doing what I do.
What I'll do is we'll get the connection, and you know what? If you can make something happen at Pablo's down in Richmond, I'll drive down there just for the party. We covered a ton of ground. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see you here in Dallas. For everyone who's been watching and hanging with us, because just time flies, and we've been at this for an hour already. Go see Biohazard on tour. Don't miss out on this opportunity. It's been 20 years since they crossed the country. You got to get out there, and as you can tell, even from the people who I read off of Reddit, they love getting a chance to see the band and meeting them. I'm always fascinated by opportunity, and one of the things that really goes around in my mind is when you're a musician and you have an opportunity, when you've wanted to do something, or you maybe have wanted to work with someone, but you haven't had an opportunity to, what can we do to put good things out in the world to make things happen? You've worked with a lot of people in your career, but is there someone that you haven't had that opportunity to work with that have given the chance to get in a studio and be creative? Who would it be and why?
That's a great question. I was looking at where October 7th, we're in Dallas, 8th in San Antonio. Sorry. Who would it be and why? Obviously, like there's some people that have passed that I wished I would have collaborated with. But I think for people that are still living, I did. That's such a good question. You stumped me, dude. I really love and think Charlie from Anthrax is super talented. I did have a chance to work with Josh from Typo Negative, and then he told me, I have no problem telling this. He said, "Yeah, but just so you know, I write everything, and I'm not open for any changes." And I'm like, "What? So you don't want me to have any creative input?" And he's like, "Nope." I'm like, "Okay, not going to happen then." So I didn't get a chance to do that. Sorry. Josh is a great dude. So who else? I think Chino from Deftones, love him. Super talented dude. Would love to collab with him. Serge from System of a Down. I'm good friends and love Waddy from Exploited. Since I was a little kid, he's like spitting out messages of whatever you want to call it. And it just fucking, he still does it. He's had like 5 heart attacks and he's still doing it. And we played a lot together. It would be great to do something with him. I did have the honor to not only work with but have become close friends with Sendog from Cypress Hill. We have a band called Powerful. That was a great thing. I still sitting down and writing music and having him spit lyrics over it. He's in the booth behind me, and I'm sitting at the console listening to him come up with ideas. And I still to this day, I'm like a little kid going like, oh, that way he flows over my wrist, amazing. I'm a fan, and he's like, "Oh, what'd you think?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was awesome, bro." And I turn back around like, still excitement of a little kid. So I would love to get that with other people. I really love the uptick in popularity of female-fronted bands. I think there's some great singers out there. I love Ginger. I think she's amazing. I would love to do something with her. So many great bands. The singer of Slaughterhouse LA, I love. I love the band. So there's so many great artists out there. I've never had that question, bro. It's usually who would you? And people always say people that have passed. That's a really good twist. It makes you think. It makes me. And now I'll text you. I'll like I got this is the person. This is number one.
You know what? Look, for everyone who's hanging with us, if you know any of them, get them hooked up. I mean, this is all. Look, life is about connections and doing good for other people, and we put things out there. Believe it or not, there was when we first started the podcast.
Siouxsie and the Banshees. Siouxsie Sioux.
Siouxsie Sioux. Oh wow.
Yeah, Siouxsie Sioux would be.
Have to make. You know what?
Nina Hagen, my friend from Brazil, Supla, he did something with her, and I asked him all about it. He said she was amazing. She's so cool. And since I was a little kid, I loved her. So that would be cool, too. I'm going to keep texting you, bro. You open up a can of worms, I'm going to be like, Scott, yeah, Nina Hagen. What about HR from the Bad Brains?
What we're going to end up with is I'm just going to keep adding into the show description below as hashtags to see if we can get their we can get their interest. And look, I know enough people in the UK. You never know what could happen. You never know who we might be doing. But that's the thing, man. One of the things I love about doing this is when I hear from an artist in Germany that he did an album release party, and some guy who is from San Francisco living in Germany drove 3 hours away to see him. Had never heard him before. It's his second album. Goes up to him after the show. He goes, "Dude, I saw you on this podcast. I had to come to this show." And that's the joy of it, right? That's the joy of doing this stuff and getting that word out there.
Hey, the elephant in the room for this conversation, I completely forgot, is Onyx. We did 2 songs collaborated with the band Onyx years ago. A song called Slam and a song called Judgment Night. We were on tour this spring, and we were playing Belfast for the first time. We'd been to Dublin numerous times, never had a chance to play Belfast. Sold out crowd, awesome show. Walk off stage, drink water, towel ourselves off before we go back out, finish the show, and Onyx shows up. Yo, what's up? Hugs and high fives. 2 minutes later, they're on stage. Let's do a jam. Like what? We didn't rehearse this. They just, let's figure it out. And we did it live. The shit was on social media within an hour, and people were like, what the fuck? And that was the prelude to this tour. So now this tour is with Onyx, and there'll be collabs on stage, which is I'm looking forward to a lot. You asked me, what else am I looking forward to on this tour? So that's going to be something different. In all the years after the jamming with them and writing those songs together, we never toured, never played together. So that I'm psyched for this, and we need to take this to other countries. But America, you get it first, and Biohazard and Onyx coming up in October all through the U.S. All the dates are hopefully here down below. Yep. But we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you here in Dallas. And as I tell everybody on every episode, you've got to support your artists. It's buy their music, don't sample it. Buy their music, buy it whether it's online, buy it digitally, buy it the physical, right? Buy CDs or albums, whatever you can get your hand on, whatever they're producing. Buy the shirts. Buy the tickets, go to the shows, enjoy it, and support your artist, because art, it just isn't free. Like this stuff doesn't just go on for the sake of it. We have to support our artists. And yes, the current state of the music industry is in a world of flux, and the most damage is being done to the artist because of where you can get your content now. So please, as we tell you, go out, buy Biohazard stuff, support the bands on the tour with Biohazard, show them your love, support all the musicians you love. With that said, and one of the things that I love doing before we wrap up, because you totally look like you're a Taylor Swift fan for sure. And this is going to be interesting because you have daughters, you got kids. And I've learned lately that when the artists that I talk to aren't making their own music, and I ask them what they're, a couple of artists they're currently listening to, the influences that people's kids are having on what they're listening to is amazing. So who are 2 or 3 artists that when you're not making your own music these days, you're just kind of digging, maybe you're working out, maybe you're out on a walk, maybe you're just hanging out with your wife. Who are a couple of bands, and what is it that you love about them?
All right, so I'm going to put, and I just updated my phone for the iPhone, but so I'm opening up iTunes for the first time. That's my go-to choice, Spotify too, but it's taking a second. I'm going to go see recently played, and I'll go through it. But while that's loading, and it's a new layout, so it's going to take a second to figure this out. Recently played. While it's loading, my son sent me a message on his way to his football game. I was meeting him there last night. They played Torrance High, and he sent me a message, and he said, "Hey, Pop, I'm listening to your music. Get me hyped for the game." And I was like, "Oh, it's fucking awesome." So nice. He plays guitar. He's getting better than me, and he's phenomenal. He's definitely a better lead player. All right, so recently played. Let's see. I can tell you off the top of my head, but I want to factually show you and know myself what I listen to most. They just changed this layout. I don't know where recently played is. So I'm just going to tell you. Here we go, house. It would probably be new Biohazard. Alternative. I was playing some stuff. Stations. There's no. Oh, there's a band called Wolves. I checked out. Discharge. 80s hardcore. It's a stream. Classic metal. It looks like a lot of Beowulf. Beowulf was a band I just finished producing in May. They're an OG Venice band. They've been around since the 80s. Dale was a good friend. A lot of the members had passed away. So Dale was the original singer, songwriter. The record's amazing. Finished the record, and about a month later, he passed away. So I took my wife and daughter. There was a memorial for him in Venice, and it was at like a VFW hall. So it was like OG, like underground shit. And we're there. I sang a couple songs, and then a couple guys walk up. They said hello. My daughter's there, and then they go up and they jam. And it was all the members of the original Suicidal Tendencies members. Wow. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn to my daughter. I'm like, my wife says, "Who's this?" I looked at my daughter and smiled, like, "You know who this is?" She goes, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." So it was great. I saw that. They played the whole first record in this no stage, shitty PA, sounding amazing with all fucking heart and soul. So anyways, that was Beowulf. Wu-Tang Clan.
Like it could have been 1982 all over again. That's the old hardcore days when you played wherever you could.
Yep. Wu-Tang Clan, Soundgarden, Kill 'Em All, Metallica, Seasons in the Abyss, Slayer. I like South of Heaven is great. Terror, the band Terror. Helmet. Look at this. And then Mazzy Star. Don't judge.
Nice. I love it.
It's Sublime.
I love it. Look, I think one of the
Black Sabbath, sorry, and Ozzy, dude. That's nonstop. Oh. So my ringtone. If you call me right now, call me.
I'm using my phone to record this, so okay. I can't.
It's Ozzy.
Look, I love that because you never know who's someone else is really enjoying, and I think sometimes, everything that we do in life is the amalgamation of the stuff that comes into our head, right? And we take a little piece of something from somewhere, and you never know where you might hear something. And the people who listen to your music may go, wait a minute, he's listening to Mazzy Star. What's up with that? Maybe I should check it out. I think it's fascinating to hear what people listen to, and diversity in your listening is a good thing.
Check out Slaughterhouse LA.
Absolutely.
Oh, and sorry, Angel Dust, Speed, bunch of great bands. Anyways, yeah, that's how we learned about music, dude. Back in the day, you flipped over the album cover and you read who they thanked. That's what I did, and I was like, oh, they must be friends with these dudes if they're thanking them. Who's that band? And then you go and buy the record, you listen to it. That's how you learned about great new music. And unfortunately, it's not like that anymore. But we did do on the new Biohazard record. You mentioned this. We made up some really cool packaging, some colored vinyl that I never even thought was possible. They pulled off, and I busted their balls and asked as a joke, and they did it. We're releasing the album on cassette. It's fucking genius. It's so awesome. We're actually playing on our release day in New York. We're playing Rough Trade in Manhattan, which was back in the day from England, but super cool. That's a party on our record release day. We're playing there. I don't know how we're going to pull it off, but it's going to be awesome. That's October 17th.
I spent a day at Rough Trade in London on Record Store Day, and it was an amazing experience. And it's really definitely incredible. When you're in Dallas, I'm gonna have to get a copy of the album. My niece, I've been building her album collection because you're right. I mean, when we were kids, you'd sit down, you'd read that like you were reading a novel, and you'd sit there and listen front to back, and you'd take it all in, and you'd invest your time in it. And then you're like, yeah, I want to learn who this was and this was. And we used to do the family trees of bands and stuff like that. You don't see it a lot, but my niece, I'm building her album collection, and I'm giving her so many different things to experience. And we'll definitely, when you're in Dallas, I'm going to get her a copy of that for sure. And I'll be sending that up to her because I love bringing her different band albums, and we'll get it autographed by everybody, so she'll really enjoy it.
Awesome.
You know what? Look, we've gone an hour and 15 minutes. We could probably go another 3. It's early where you are, and buddy, I love you. You're amazing. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making time for me. I can't wait to see you when you're here in Dallas. Everybody go out and support them. They're going on tour. We have to keep music alive. We have to go to shows. They bring us joy. We have to keep music flowing. It's harder than ever to do a tour, to create an album, to make a buck so that you can bring that joy to other people. So please support your bands. Billy, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making time for us.
You too, bro. Thank you.
Everybody who's hung with us this long, thanks for sticking with us. Be safe out there. It's a crazy world. And I look forward to seeing some of you at Ferris Wheelers here in Dallas for the Biohazard show. So Billy, all the best. Be safe on the road. I'll see you soon. Everybody else, we'll see you next week on The Hang.